Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Who could possibly pay the price for a kilometer? Written by Leaderside 221. The price for a kilometer was very, very high. Every species knew it. It was high enough that most modern alien governments couldn't even fathom the cost, let alone afford it. Who, after all, could lose their best soldiers, bear the economic losses, deal with the angry masses? To avoid war, many pacts, alliances, coalitions, and more alike were established between themselves to divide up territory, solve trading woes, organize plundering of worlds, and other steps that need to advance one civilization. Yet, there was one species missing from these collaborations. Humans were often looked down upon, though at first impressed when the humans had the power to help liberate the chronic peoples of the Spectalians. The various alien civilizations were later no longer infatuated with what they saw as a once promising but now stagnant civilization. For the humans, for some reason, didn't want to expand. In fact, they were content with just colonizing their own twin sun solar system, an idea preposterous to many others. The fact that the Kosan later practically turned their planet into an artificial Deathworld didn't help much with such perspectives. But none of these facts bothered the humans much. Thanks to the efforts of the Spectalians and the Kosan, they had seen what many aliens could and would do, and were quite happy to be left themselves isolated and alone. But that all changed when the humans found that one planet in their solar system, simply dubbed the Frontier, was immensely rich in rare earth element ores, which were utterly essential to advancing one's scientific civilization. When the various alien governments heard about this through their various back channels, oftentimes humans, informants, and turncoats, each checked to see if they had any treaties with the almost forgotten about civilization. The glee of each when they realized they had none with the humans was immeasurable. From close by to far reaches of space, each sent its own troops to invade, plunder, and kill, to claim the land for king, country, or people. The poor humans were completely unprepared for the landing aliens. The various alien armies, already having divided up to land prior in various meetings, swept across the barren desert frontier land as the humans retreated further and further back. There was virtually no human military personnel there except for those in the handful of observation bases. Why, the NIF reasoned, would they need to have more than a couple? It was the frontier where humans could return to a homestead life, after all. However, the lack of military presence quickly made the remaining loosely organized homesteaders retreat to the impromptu evacuation zones. With the remaining humans either dead or evacuating, the various alien governments claimed victory. The humans from the frontier, now back on their home planet of Lunsik, caused a refugee crisis amongst the FSL and other human states. The alien civilizations, emboldened by the Blitzkrieg, decided not to invade Lunsik. What, they reasoned, could the humans possibly do on their worthless potato of a planet? In truth, it was more because of the universal trait that almost all alien civilizations had: greed, that caused them to withhold from attacking. While the alien governments poised their non-attacking of the human-blown planet of Lunsek as a moral and righteous decision, they quickly set up mining infrastructure to sap and extract the planet of its precious elements. They were determined to turn the frontier into a husk. After the National Identity Front, the one and the only party allowed in the FSL, dealt with the chaos caused by the refugees and the frontier invasion in general. It asked or forced everyone to move to the countryside or into underground cities or bases to minimize casualties from the potential invasion or orbital strikes. In reality, the members of the NIF wanted to make sure their following actions would be unseen and unheard of by the various alien governments. They were going to build landers, artillery, small arms, armor, and everything else needed to achieve their goal, taking back the frontier. The aliens, reaping the rewards of the frontier soil, were more than glad to ignore the humans. They figured, after all, what could the humans do with the NBC-contaminated planet? They couldn't grow food, mine minerals, transport goods, or do anything else without tremendous effort. They considered humanity good as extinct when they were trapped on Lunsik. The NIF slowly but surely amassed more material as the alien settlers and governments grew more and more self-absorbed in their riches. Numerous sweat, tears, and unfortunately people were spent in developing and manufacturing the war material, but none actually touching the material due to the inhabitants' NBC suits. And finally, after many turbulent years, the NIF was ready. As NIF soldiers descended onto the frontier ground, they braced themselves for the fight of their lives, quite literally. The alien armies, though startled at first, then started to fire upon the landing humans. The wave of airdropped soldiers failed to retake much land, if any at all. It was firmly repelled. The commanders laughed and ridiculed the humans. How could they possibly go up against them? Their confidence was justified and reinforced by the attack's casualty rate, 87%. With the humans suffering such a massive loss, they would sue for peace soon. Perhaps, as part of the peace negotiations, they could take some of their land, the various alien commanders thought in glee. All of these thoughts vanished when the Oglean soldier reported that a human space jumper landed on the hard, rough frontier soil. The second wave had arrived, 92% casualty rate. All human objectives failed. The third wave came a few days later after that, 84% casualty rate. All human objectives failed. When the sixth wave came, the alien army's confidence began to waver just slightly. Why weren't the humans surrendering? They were mounting immeasurable losses in men and material. They should have sued for peace long ago. Seventh wave, 79% casualty rate. All human objectives failed. Eighth wave, 88% casualty rate. All human objectives failed. Ninth wave, 67% casualty rate. 80 square kilometers captured. Humanity's gaining of a foothold shocked everyone. How could they? The alien troops had the best arms, troops, and strategy, yet the humans captured some land. The alien commanders remained calm, however. After all they had to do was squeeze the humans out of only 80 kilometers. A joke to boost alien morale began to surface amongst the alien armies. One that jested how a ninth wave humans couldn't see the frontier ground because it was covered in the corpses of comrades. There was some truth to it. First assault on human-controlled territory, 41% human casualty rate, 9% alien casualty rate, 55 kilometers held by humans. Second assault on the human-controlled territory, 38% human casualty rate, 14% alien coalition casualty rate, 49 kilometers held by humans. Third assault, 22% human casualty rate, 24% alien coalition casualty rate, 48 kilometers held by humans. The alien commanders were furious, their respective governments more so. How could they lose more men than humanity? This was unacceptable, they said. They would put everything they had into the next assault. The alien commanders agreed. Right before they finished planning, however, the Spectalian commander noticed something out the window. A human in full-body black armor with a gas mask helmet combo, with lenses that glowed red. The humans had come to them. By the time the humans had gained a tenth of the whole planet, the alien commanders all had a thought bubble up in their dark subconscious. Could the humans actually win? The elves were the first to give up the fight. They claimed that they extracted more than enough resources to cover their expenses. They also claimed that if they remained there any longer, they wouldn't be the case for long. The elven commanders pulled their troops from the front lines and left without more fuss. Eighth of the planet recaptured. The Agro were the second. After the Green Bay battle, their commanders announced the coalition that they no longer had sufficient ammunition for their weapons. When the others offered to donate theirs, the Agro commanders refused, saying that the ammo was incompatible. Everyone there knew they just wanted out. They also pulled their troops and headed home. Fifth of the planet recaptured. The Saldes weren't so lucky to escape unscathed. The humans, more familiar with NBC material than anyone else, deployed their chemical radio flamers against them. They all suffered from genetic damage and toxins. The Saldes, angry that the humans could have had the nerve to use such material against them, deployed NBC weapons against the humans. The humans, wearing NBC suits ever since the first time the Krosan landed on Lunsek, simply shrugged it off. Now spiteful with no way to release their anger against the humans, the soldiers also packed up and went home. They suffered more damage from the NBC materials than they let on. Third of the planet recaptured. The Sonzoids were next. After their military leadership was quite literally torn apart by human infiltrators, they retreated into chaos from the front lines. Without any superiors, organization within the Sunzodian army quickly fell apart, and they flew back to their planet. Majority of the planet recaptured. The starving Yukats left the shame after the humans utterly defeated them with a casualty ratio of 1 to 30. The Yukats all crammed together in the remaining ships that were still in the coalition-held territory. With the Yukats gone, only one species remained. 99.9% of the planet recaptured. The Spectalians were humanity's longest and second most hated enemy, so it was not a surprise to the human soldiers that they were the last ones remaining. Since the Spectalians were the closest to humans, as well as being the only alien army prepped for the frontier, they were responsible for their reparations. As the head commander of the Spectalian Expeditionary Force sat on the stiff, metallic chair, he stared at the document laid on the table before him, yet didn't actually read the words written. A thought was bugging his mind the entire war, and he, after much deliberation, decided to ask a lone private that guarded the desolate cell he was in, both of which were testaments that the humans didn't really care or respect the Spectalians much anymore. "Soldier, answer me a question," said the artificial, translated voice of the Spectalian's visor produced. The soldier remained silent and stood steady, not even turning towards him. The Spectalian continued anyway. "How could you throw so much away? I visited the mass graves during your initial waves. They took up my entire peripheral vision. How could you lose so much and yet continue on as if nothing happened?" The soldier, though shifting a bit, did not respond or move. He remained in position. The Spectalian pressed on. The Spectalian commander decided to appeal to the human's emotion to garner a response. "Ah, I see now how you do it. You simply have no regard for your comrades' lives. You see the rifle, armor, and other war material handed to you as trash, ready to be thrown out. When you see the comrade you left to get blown to bits by our weapons, you don't even care enough to turn around to look. You simply see the price of war as that. Something that you have to put a certain amount of material in to win, not caring about the people and work that makes up this purchase." This indeed did trigger a response from the private. He flung open the cell door and stormed inside. He slammed his hand on the rigid, cold, and unpolished table. He pointed at the Spectalian and began to talk. "We damn well knew the price, and we paid it heavily. You want to know why we paid a price for every single goddamn cursed kilometer?" The private took a deep breath and shook his head. "We always wanted peace, it's true. When my ancestors arrived in Lonsec and found the actual aliens, they were hopeful for what the future might bring. I mean, the possibilities were endless. God rest their souls. If they only knew how evil you all were. You were all just plain despicable. When they finally realized what you are, what you did, they couldn't cooperate with any of you people. And so we withdrew, hoping that you wouldn't bother us. We wouldn't have to bother you. But still, you did. You still killed and plundered for your own greed, murdered our brothers and sisters over and over again. Yet you all claim that you're a peaceful species, yet your actions always contradict that. You're all hypocrites, murderers, liars, and..." The private leaned in. "We're gonna make sure you guys never do anything like that to us or any other people again." The private then tapped the document. "Now, sign!" After the Frontier War, the humans changed. No longer were they going to bask in their isolationism. Every alien government that fled diplomatically begged for them to be what they once were, content with their own solar system. But there was no going back to what once was, only towards the future, towards humanity's expansion. The age of humanity had begun. And yet, even as I, as a human historian, write this during a time when human civilization is stronger than ever, I can't help but feel like we are nothing more than a broken shells of what we once were. We lost something gradually over the various wars. Was it hope for the future? Optimism of what could be? I'm not sure. But I am sure, even as the human space jumpers reach the numerous stars, that humanity is less now than ever. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.